Welcome and good afternoon. This is the 40th CALLERLAB Convention in North Carolina. Today is March 25th, 2013, and this is the couple dancing session. I am Kris Jenson, your moderator, and our panelist today is Lee Kopman, who has been calling since 1957, has written most of the calls on most of the lists, and is here to talk about two-couple dancing. Lee, take it away.
We're going to have some people demonstrate for us. Are you any good? Good, we're not going to use you anyway. I didn't call on you yet. I don't want. First of all, I didn't ask her. I got somebody for you, so relax. I'm in charge. Yeah, eventually we're going to have some people demonstrate, all right? Even though it's two couples, we're going to start off with a square, and then we're going to go into two couples. And I'll tell you why we're going to end up in a square to begin with, all right? When you do the two couples, we start off first, when I do the two couples. It's important in your program, and I'll show you why as we go along. It's important as far as teaching your beginners, number one, and number two, where is it? Okay. Teaching them also for your sight calling. Very important for your sight calling. And then there's another aspect where you do it as far as challenging your dancers. I have some sequences over here that shows you how to challenge them. Some of them are tough. Even if you're a plus dancer, I have some things here that are going to knock your socks off, okay? If you think you're a good plus dancer, I'm going to find out just how good you are in about a minute or two, maybe 5 minutes, okay? So we're going to start off first with a square, okay? And then we're going to go into some two-couple dancing, and then we're going to show you how to deal with it in terms of sight calling. How many people here are good sight callers? Kris, put your hand down, okay? Okay? It's very important for you to sharpen your skills as a sight caller when we get to that segment. And then we're going to show you how you can challenge your dancers in terms of two-couple dancing. Now, I have a square here. Kris, get up here to begin with. And we're going to start off with the square. And we're talking about, you have your partner here? Okay, where is she? Okay, we had three.
Now that's your turn.
Barbara, you any good? Barbara, you didn't talk to me. Any good at this? Okay. All right. We're yeah. All right. We got a square here. We're going to start off with a square for just a little bit, and then we're going to break up, and I'll show you what happens as we deal with it in terms of two couples. Okay? We're going to, yeah, you just stay where you are for a minute. I'm going to come out here, and as the caller, of course, this is 1 and 3. And let's just say that you're meeting your beginners for the first time. And when you meet your beginners for the first time, I'm going to show you some of the choreography I do and why I don't do two couples to begin with initially. Is that clear? Talk to me.
Yes.
This is what I say to the beginners when I meet them for the first time. If I talk to them and I say, "Did you hear me?" And they say yes, but they didn't hear me. There's a big difference between hearing and listening. They hear me, but they don't listen to me. Is that clear?
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yes.
You don't have to shout, just listen to me, okay? And this is how we start, and I'm going to tell you, in the square, couple number 1, raise your hands. Number 3. Number 2. I tell them this, but we're going to, just break this down a little bit. Number 4. 1 and 3 are the head couples. Raise your hands. Number 2, number 4, okay? If we were in a room where we had a window or whatever, or a mirror, I would just point that out to them just so that would be easier for you. Now, here's how I would deal with it just to begin with the square, and then we're going to break them up into two couples. Now, the reason that we don't start out with two couples, okay, is the beginning. If we start to deal with head ladies or right and left throughs just with two, and two couples are doing it only, these two couples here are watching just two, knock it off. Right. These couples here are watching just two couples doing the figure. I'm not sure that they really understand it to begin with. So I would just as soon have all 4 people doing it someplace in the room at the same time. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
So what I'm doing is this. I'm just showing you, before we even do just 2 couple calls, what I would do is if I am teaching beginners just to start with, forgetting about 2 couple dancing. We're going to get to that in a minute. But I figured it might be a good idea to show you some figures I'm using for a square at a beginner class without using any 2 couple moves at all. I thought this might help you. Okay? Face your corners. Passing right shoulders, do-si-do. Face your partners. Passing left shoulders, same as a do-si. Don't do this call until I tell you. Passing left shoulders, same as a do-si-do, seesaw your partner. All right, join hands in a ring and circle to the left. And reverse, circle to the right. When you get back home to where you started from, square your set. So everybody's involved. We're not talking about 2 couples at all now. We're talking about a full square. Everybody put your right hands in and touch. In the direction you're facing, walk around the square. Go. This is a right hand star. Reverse, put your left hands in. This is a left hand star. When you get back home to where you started from, square your set. I'm teaching 4 people at a time, not 2 people at a time. I want to make that point. We're not doing 2 couples at this point. Is that clear? Don't get excited now. Okay.
I'm afraid of you.
Okay. Now we just did right hand stars and left hand stars. Everybody face to the right in a single file. Face to the right. All the boys move into the middle. Shake right hands with your partner. Hold left hands underneath right hands. That's a promenade position. Walk around the set. When you get back home to where you started from, square your set. We did not do 2 couple dancing yet. Okay? This is the way we start out. Groups of 4, not with just 2 couples. I don't want them to think 2 couples are doing it while 2 couples are watching. I don't want them to do that. Okay? Face your corners. Passing right shoulders, do-si-do, and go back to where you started from. Everybody's moving at the same time. Face your partners. Passing left shoulders, seesaw, and don't forget to just back up. And square your set, come back to where you started from. Everybody put your right hands in. Make a right hand star. We're still dealing with everybody. Reverse your star. I tell them to clap. She's the only one that remembers that. Square your set. Now face to the right in single file. Everybody's working, not 2 couples. Boys move into the middle. Shake right hands with your partner. Promenade, left hands underneath right hands. When you get back home, square your set. Now we're still dealing with 4 couples. We're not dealing with 2 couples. You follow me so far? 2 couples is not important at the beginning when you're working with beginners. We're going to get to that in just a few minutes. All right. Now, we all promenaded, home. That's not a problem. Is that clear? Okay. All the boys move into the middle. Now, the boys only. Girls step out of the square. Okay? Girls only face to the right in single file. Girls promenade all the way around till you get back home. Boys make a right-hand star now. Turn it. Boys, reverse your star. When you get back home, square your set. And we get you, okay? We're still working just with stars and promenades. Look what you're able to do. All right? Now, the girls go into the middle. Boys back out. Boys promenade. Go. Girls make a right-hand star. Turn it. Reverse your star. Back by the left. When you get back home, square your set. Still, everybody's working, not just 2 couples. Okay. The side couples take a step forward. Head couples promenade all the way around till you get back home. The others make a right-hand star. All the way around. Reverse your star. Back by the left. And when you get back home, square your set. Everybody's functioning. Take a look at that. Still a square, not 2 couples. Everybody face to the right in single file. Start to walk around. Now stop. Don't move. Girls, I'm going to ask you to backtrack. Turn around by turning to your right and face the other way around. You're going to walk around the square this way, clockwise, while the boys continue to walk around in the middle. Go. Pass your partner 1 time. Hold up a finger. Make sure it's this finger. Pass your partner once. The second time, do-si-do your partner. And then promenade your partner. Still working 4 couples. Got the idea? Okay. We're not doing ladies chain. We're not doing right and left throughs. We're still working with 8 people, 4 people. Now we're going to break up where we do 2 couple dancing. All right, the head couples, I want you to move over here. The side couples, I want you to move over there. And I want the side couples to line up as head couples. Okay, now we're going to start to work in 2 couple dancing. And the very first thing I'm going to do is have them make right-hand stars here, just for 2 couples. And remember that you're working as head couples. So you're couples 1 and 3 and couples 1 and 3 here. With the girl you're facing, do-si-do. Now face your partner. And seesaw your partner left shoulder, do-si-do. And square up when you get back home. Now put your right hands in and make a right hand star. Now reverse your star back by the left. And when you get back home, square your set. These are the same calls that they learned when they were in the square. Not a problem there. Now we're going to start to do some things that they didn't do when they were in the squares. And we're going to start to do a ladies chain. When I talk to them as a ladies chain, I tell them, you're going to get the opposite lady. She's going to become your partner. And the first thing you're going to do after you turn the opposite lady, she is your partner, and you're going to end up, gentlemen, back in your home position, and you're going to get the opposite girl as a partner. If I can, I'm going to take a square of 4 people, and I'm going to be demonstrating. If you can do that, that's the easiest way to do it, to show what's happening and how to do the call. That's the best way to do it, rather than talk to them initially. So the best way to do this so that they understand is to demonstrate the setup. If your wife is here and she knows what to do and she decides to come to the dance with you, take her and let her help you to demonstrate the call. Now, the important thing to do is to give them this information. That's the best thing, and to make it clear and concise. Don't give them a big story. And you tell them real quickly, the girl you're looking at is going to become your partner, and when you finish doing this call, which is a 2 ladies chain, you're going to have the opposite girl, and you're going to be back home with in your home position, gentlemen, and the opposite girl is going to become your partner. And there's one part of the call which has a terminology that you may not have heard before. In fact, you haven't heard it before, which is called a courtesy turn. I want those 2 girls to come into the middle with the right hand and stop. Boys, get your left hand ready. Put your hand on the girl's back and turn her by turning counterclockwise. Now, of course, these guys know what the heck is going on, so it's a piece of cake here. The best thing you can do, if it's possible, to demonstrate that call. That's really critical. Now, notice you have the opposite girl. That's really important to make that clear, that if you do this 2 ladies chain, you're going to get the opposite girl. We're going to ask you to chain the ladies back again. Give you your right hand, get your left hand ready, and then courtesy turn her. Now, one other thing about the ladies chain which is critical, when the girls go across, it would be a big help if the boys slide over a little bit into the girl's position, so it'll make it easy for you to meet her with the left hand to courtesy turn her. Example, I'm going to come in and take her place. Get out of the way and hold the mic. Watch what I do. Right hand in, slide over a little bit, and then courtesy turn her. See how that's done? That's a good part of the call. In fact, it's a good idea to teach the call that way. It's comfortable that way. And it's really important. All the girls go back to your home base if you're not there. Another thing to do that might be helpful is when the girls go across and the guys slide over to do the courtesy turn, hold the girl close to you. I teach at 2 colleges. And when you do the courtesy turn, you know, with the new kind of dancing that started about 15, 20 years ago, the youngsters, the college kids or whatever you want to call them now, are not used to dancing close together. You know, when we danced, where are you, honey? Get over here. when we danced together, we danced. Knock it off. When we danced, we held each other. Now the kind of dancing they do, they're not together. They're apart. They don't know what it is to be close together. Then all of a sudden, you want to do a courtesy turn and be close together. Well, that's unusual for them. And when you do your courtesy turn, here's how they're doing courtesy turns. I saw it in my college. When they do the courtesy turn, they're out here, and come over here. They're out here, and they courtesy turn this way. I see it all the time, so I know what I'm talking about. They don't know what it is to hold a girl close to them. That's very unusual for them, okay? Now, one of the things about dealing with this kind of stuff, as far as the ladies' chain, is if you can, demonstrate it. If you can't do that, you got to be very concise when you teach a call, okay? Don't give too much wording, too much verbalization on this whole thing. And think about it before you get to the class. I mean, a ladies' chain, what does it mean? I mean, it's a piece of, are you sleeping, Ed?
Close.
What do you mean close? Wait till we get to some of these things here, which makes the plus cause a little... Yeah, we do that. Well, why don't you change places with this lady? So those are the things, probably hardly anybody here is teaching at the college level or whatever, but I see that. But if you teach youngsters, you're going to see that again. If you think the college students are pretty far apart, wait till you see when the youngsters are holding the girls. I mean, it's like this. They're holding fingertips. I mean, they don't even want to touch them. If you're teaching youngsters, I mean, here's the experience I had with youngsters when I was in elementary school, because I taught K through 6. And if you're teaching K through, how many of you have really young kids? Was it tough to get them into squares? All right, let me tell you, I'm going to give you a hint personally, okay? It's not going to cost you extra money, all right? If you're in a school situation or whatever, line them up outside the gym or the facility. Boy, girl. Take 4 people, 4 boys, 4 girls outside, bring them inside, sit them down into a square. Don't let them just come into the facility and say, we're going to get you into squares here. Get them into squares when they're outside. Bring them in, sit them down, you're set. That's the way we used to do it in the school. I had a square. Before they knew it, they were right there. And in the college situation, we did the same thing. Before you know it, they were in a square. Because what you'll do is you're going to spend half the time, half the period, putting them into squares. It's a waste of time. Because they don't want to touch each other. And God forbid they don't like who they're dancing with, too bad. You deal with it with, whoever you're with, and that's how it has to be. So you got to be aware. And then you also have the kind of a situation that's tough to deal with is this boy is very good looking, or this girl is very good looking, and this boy, he's doesn't look so good, and she's not crazy about him, or this girl has a boyfriend who's back here and he's not up front. Those are social issues you have to deal with. And it happens. That's a problem. At the college level, we had, at Adelphi University, we had one boy and girl that joined the class, and they were a couple. Let them dance together. Don't take them apart. Not important to do that. But that's a social issue you have to deal with. I would not take them apart. This year at Nassau Community College, I really lucked out because we had enough boys to dance with enough girls, which was good. Okay, getting back to the teaching aspect. If you're going to teach, you got to be very careful on how you deal with the teaching. Make sure you're very concise, that you know the call, and it's easy for you to get the information out. And it's better if you can demonstrate it. If you can't demonstrate it, make sure you know how to define it, and make sure you're very clear about it, which is the same as defining the call. Okay? Now that was a ladies' chain. Right and left throughs is going to give you a problem. And it's more of a problem for the girls and the boys. Because when you pull by, the girls are going to want to turn out. That's a problem. And you're going to say, when you give a right hand, you pull by face your partner. Doesn't mean a thing to the girls. Somehow, it's easier for the boys when they pull by to face in than it is for the girls. They're going to turn out. And it's going to take you a few minutes to clear it up for the girls, even though you're in two couples. It's going to take you a while. I don't know why. That's the problem. You give the right pull by. You don't have to do this. I know you how to do the right and left through. If you don't, you shouldn't be standing up here. Okay? So the right and left through is going to be a problem for the girls. Have you ever had a problem with that? Well, they turn away all the time. Not everyone, some will catch on right away. But those are some of the things you should be aware of. And you should say it a few times, because you should be aware of it as teachers. That when you pull by, girls face your partner. Sometimes it doesn't mean anything because they hear it, but they don't listen. And remember what I said, hearing and listening, two different things. You hear it, but you don't listen. One of the best things about anybody taking your classes, they learn how to listen. Listening is a lost art. They watch TV and they learn what's happening with the story based on what they see, not so much on listening to the story. When I meet my students at the college, I tell them, you're going to forget all these calls after you finish, unless you decide to keep coming and you want to join my club. That's a different story. But one of the things that's going to improve are your listening skills. That's the best thing that's going to happen. Ed woke up, by the way. He's here. So, whatever the case. Your listening skills are going to improve. So the right and left through is going to be one of the toughest problems. Also, learning how to slide through. You tell them to turn right, they turn left. You tell left, they turn right. Yeah, well, I know that. I noticed that when you came in here. And then I tell it. And if you can be funny about things, one of the things I say to them, and I don't say it all, I say it a lot of times. I say to them, slide through, you turn right, you turn left. And then I say to them, do you drive? Because if you drive, let me know when you're on the road. I want to get off the road. The boy turned right and the girl turned left. Am I going to put two boys together, two girls together, and you're a beginner? No. Don't need to do that. Forget it. I would not do that. Now, do I teach California twirl in the beginning? No. As far as I'm concerned, you can do it, you can't do it, I don't care if you do. California twirl, as far as I'm concerned, with the list, I teach a partner trade. Easy to do. Come here, baby. Well, don't get nervous about this, okay? California twirl is a tough call. Tough call to teach. I'm not saying you shouldn't teach it. It's okay. Pass to the center, I think it's easier to say partner trade. Pass to the center, it's easier with a partner trade. Pass to the center with the California twirl. It looks good, I think. Hard to teach. Very hard to teach. Working with the college students, they have a lot of trouble doing a California twirl. You want to teach it, that's up to you. I don't teach it with a California twirl. I teach it with a partner trade. You want to show them how to do it? That's up to you. I'm not saying that should be taken off the list, but I don't teach it with a California twirl. So the teaching part of this, as far as beginners are concerned, I'm telling you, be as concise as you can and make sure you know the definition and make sure they understand the call. Any questions so far? Boy, you must be good. Say again? A deodorant check. Well, that's good. That's good.
Not everybody uses it.
That's good. The right and left throughs, let me see. Pass the ocean is tough. Oh, let's take a swing through first, okay? Square up, you guys. Okay. You know when you pass the ocean? Where you pass through and you face your partner and you make an ocean wave? Not so easy. Not so easy. Because all of a sudden you're putting them into a different formation that they've never seen before. Tough. Pass the ocean. I'm not looking to see if they break down because I'll be a nervous wreck. Okay? Drop hands and back away. Okay? Hold your partner's hand who's next to you. By the way, a swing through from here is different than a swing through from an ocean wave for a new dancer. Not the same. Get into the wave, okay? Get into your wave. A swing through from here is easy for dancers because they're almost prepared for it. Almost prepared for it. To turn half is not so easy. You got to be aware of the degree of difficulty of some of these calls. A swing through from here is easier than a swing through when they back up and they're facing. And you should be aware of the degree of difficulty of some of these calls that you're going to teach.
Why is that?
How the hell am I supposed to know? I just know how to do it. And why is that? I have no idea. I have no idea.
Mentally block it, kind of.
I don't know. Does anybody know?
The swing through.
The swing through.
If you're telling that they're first going to step. One thing is if you're telling them that if they know swing through, and then you're telling them, well, you could do it from facing couples, you're going to automatically make the wave. The problem that you're going to have is with the girls. First thing that's going to happen is when they come in and make the wave, the girls have left hands with each other, and then to turn by the right, they got to let go. So they come in, they grab hands, and then they got to let go immediately. It's just awkward. So that's one problem if you teach it that way. When I teach it, I tell them, look, the person's right in front of you. Don't worry about making the wave. You're going to grab the person, turn them half, and then you'll be in a wave, and then you'll finish the call. That's how I do it.
Another thing to do is this. Come over here, honey. Okay. Just turn around. Another thing you might want to do is you might want to just have two persons like this. Because for some, and this was with some of the college students, come over here, let's get away from the speaker, to do a swing through by turning half with the right for new people, and I'm talking about college students, this was very hard to turn half for them. And I don't know why. This was not so easy, just to turn half. Because a lot of them just turned a quarter. I don't know why. But this was a problem. But it may not be a bad idea to just take two people from that group of four and just say turn half by the right. If you said to them just to turn half by the right and just work this for a little bit, you're halfway through the call. And then just turn back for a minute, if that's possible, and give you your left hand. Okay? Now with the left hand, do the same thing. Turn half by the left. And then turn half by the left again. All right, you're almost through this call. Turn half by the left. Okay? Now go back to your group. Just go back to your group. Now everybody, square up. Go back to 0. Go back to where you started from. All right. Of course, let's assume that you taught them slide through. I don't know. If you didn't teach them slide through, everybody just pass through. Just pass through. You had to teach them pass through. We didn't get to that yet. Face your partner. Okay? Give her your right hand. Now, let's blend in so that the girls are holding left hands. Okay? Why don't you get your hands up about shoulder height so you're in this kind of this is called an ocean wave. All right? See how I got to them? I skipped some calls that I normally would have taught to them. Okay? This is what we call a right hand ocean wave. Now, with the right hand, of course, I would have taught them a trade first. You hear what I'm saying? I skipped those calls just for our sake right here. Now, with the right hand, I want everybody to turn half. Ready? Turn half. With the same girl, do the same thing. Turn half. With the same girl, turn half. Now, notice that the boys are in the middle with the left hand. Drop the girl's hand. Now, boys with the left hand in the middle, turn half. Boys again with the left hand, turn half. Okay. Now, with the right hand, with the girl you have, boys drop left hand. With the right hand, turn half. Again, turn half with the right hand. Boys with the left hand, turn half. Boys again with the left hand, turn half. Now with the right hand, turn half. Again with the right hand, turn half. Now boys with the left hand, turn half. Boys with the left hand, turn half. Boys with the right hand, turn half. Okay. Now, let's see if we could do two things in a row real quickly. And this is what I'm going to tell them. I'm going to say, boys, I'm going to tell you to turn the girl with the right hand, turn half, and as soon as you come into the middle, I want you to turn with the left hand quickly. Ready? With the right hand, turn half, and with the left hand in the middle, turn half again. Now let's try this again. With the right hand, turn half, and with the left hand, turn half again. With the right hand, turn half. Boys, with the left hand, turn half. With the right hand, turn half. With the left hand, turn half. Now this is going real smooth. Now, unfortunately, we got to get him out of this whole setup. Okay? One of the problems, or a few of the problems that we have with these calls is you have to teach a few calls in order to resolve your problem. Okay? And some of these calls that you would have to teach is a running and a bend the line. You can't get away from that unless you start to do hinges and turn backs and all that business. You're going to have to do that. All right, let's have you do this. With the right hand, turn half, and boys in the middle with the left hand, turn half. And one of the things I'm going to have to teach them is a run rather than a hinge, because I don't want to get involved with a half a trade, because I don't want to do that. Now here's what I'm going to say, and this is how I approach it with my college students, or even if I was teaching beginners. One of the calls you're going to have to learn, I'm talking to them, not to you. I'm going to have the boys run around the girls, and don't do it yet. When the boys run around this girl, he's going to walk around this girl behind her, and only he is going to change his facing direction. The girl is going to slide over into his position. Girls, don't you dare turn around. Only the boy is going to face the other direction. Go. The kind of a line you have now is what we call a two-face line. Two-face line. Say it. Say it louder. Okay, now I want to get this line so that you're going to end up facing each other as couples. And the way we do that, it's called bend the line. Say it. And the way you bend it, boys, don't drop this girl's hand. And the girls are going to back up. Go. That's it. Now, all these calls that I'm telling them what to do, I'm telling them what to do by making sure I say it and that they say it. All right? Get into your ocean wave. I did not say do-sa-do to an ocean wave. I hate do-sa-do. I hate do-sa-do. I never call it to an ocean wave. I think that that's a delay tactic for the dancers. It's a waste of time. You can call it. You can do whatever you want. I think it's a delay tactic. I hate it. You can do whatever you want. Now, we're in this ocean wave. They still do not know the call. They don't know it at all. Now, with the right hand, turn half. With the left hand in the middle, turn half. Now, the boys, don't forget, when you run around the girl, you're the only one to change facing direction. Run around the girl. Girls, just slide over. Don't drop her hand. Girls, you're going to back up. Bend the line. You're in great shape. Now, do a right and left through. Right pull by, and that courtesy turn. Don't forget her. Okay, for our sake now, because let's assume I did the slide through, and I would have already done that. Slide through. You couple number one? I do your right and left through. And we're back to whatever. Now those swing throughs and the runs or whatever are going to come later than this swing through and the runs, okay? These other calls, the slide throughs and so forth, I would have done much earlier. I would have not done this call that early. I would have done the slide throughs and the right and left throughs and the partner trades much earlier in the teaching aspect of the calls. You got me so far? So this swing throughs and the runs are going to come much earlier. If this was the squared up set, here's what I would have taught them first. I would have taught them, oh, by the way, listen to this. Slide through, right and left through, pass through, three calls that end with the word through. Thank God you don't have to take lessons all the time. Pass through, right and left through, slide through. I mean, that's incredible. I don't know who wrote those calls. I did not write those calls. Slide through, they all sound the same. I mean, if you had to take lessons, I mean, what would you expect? You had the pass through, the right and left through, and the slide through. Three calls that sound the same. Now, when you're teaching them, these calls here at the very beginning, after you teach them the right and left through, no, after you teach them the do-sa-do and you teach them the slide through, okay, you got to teach them to weave the ring, you got to circle left, girls backtrack, you teach them the ladies chain, the 2 ladies chain. You should teach them the 4 ladies chain and things like that. After you teach them those things around the circle, then you're going to teach them the right and left throughs. You teach them the right and left throughs again. You teach them the pass through. You teach them the partner trade. Just shut up over here, okay? Then you teach them the California twirl or whatever you want to teach them. And then you're working with just those 2. Then you start to teach them the slide through, okay? Then you do a slide through, okay? Now, pass through, partner trade, pass through. All right, California twirl. You happy now? Now slide through, okay? Pass through, partner trade, okay? Pass through. See, God punished you. All right, California twirl. I'll bring you back. Do it right and left through. Okay? We're working these calls for like the 3rd lesson before we get to pass the ocean and the swing through and the boys run. These are calls that we're working on for about 2 or 3 lessons before we get to any of the other calls. We didn't even get to square throughs. I would probably do square throughs, maybe around the 3rd or 4th lesson before we got to these other calls. By the way, you may not agree with me. Somewhere around the 3rd lesson, I teach a grand. Are you okay, honey? Okay. You got one in your pocket? All right. Somewhere, he's got one right there. Somewhere around the 3rd lesson, I teach a grand square. And they love it. They think they're geniuses. It's easy to teach. And the way I teach a grand square, I have the head couples here. I take the side couples away. I put them somewhere in the room. And I teach them as head couples. And they learn it easily. And then I teach it, then I get them to line up as side couples. Oh, no, I keep them as head couples, and then I teach it in reverse as head couples. And then I bring them back, put them in a square. They learn it in a second. It's their favorite call. And it's fun to do, and it is not hard to teach them. And I bring it into the class around the third lesson, the grand square. Easy to teach, and I love it. You might want to consider that. And as far as the ladies chain, I teach them 2 ladies. I teach them when I finally bring them back with the 2 couples. By the way, we teach them the ladies chain. When I bring them back into the square, after doing it with the 2 couples, I bring them the 2 ladies chain, the 4 ladies chain. I teach them the ladies chain 3/4. I do that single file promenade. I do the back track. We do that in the first 3 or 4 lessons. Then we teach, after we get them into the 2 couples with the pass-through to a partner trade or a California twirl, whatever you want to do. And we do these slide-throughs, a pass-through, and whatever. All these things are done, and then eventually we get them into the square-throughs. Now, if you're not a good sight caller, you better write this stuff down. Now, we're going to get to the sight calling in a minute. That's going to be the next segment. Anybody have any questions about this business so far with the 2 couple? All right, let's rest for a bit. How do I teach the square through? Almost like the right and left through. The way I teach the square through, I get on the floor myself, and I tell them you got a box of 4 here. Okay? With my wife there, it's easy. She comes to all the dances. She collects the money, and she makes sure that I give her the right amount. And we walk like we're in a square. And I walk the square. That's what I do. I walk the square. Yeah. Oh, she's saying, how do you do did you say? Yeah, the square through. I walk, and I show them the box of 4. We do that. That's the way I do it. Some other people may have some better ideas on that. Look, if you're successful with teaching some of these steps better than I'm suggesting, do it. I'm talking to you now about different ways that I teach some of these things on the basic square. I told you I started with the square, which is what I wanted to do. And then I broke them up into 2 couples. You may have some better ways, and if you have success with the way you do it better than myself, do it that way. But tell the group. Yes, sir.
That's it. Butch Adams from Washington, D.C. Do you teach a right and left through before or after you teach the square through?
I teach it before. I teach the right and left through first before I teach the square through. I would not teach the square through before the third lesson. I would teach the pass through first, the California twirl or partner trade, and if we're in a square setup, I would have to teach the pass through first. When I teach the pass through the first time, I teach them pass through. I also, there's a bunch of calls that I left out here that I do first. I teach pass through, separate, walk around the outside, pass through, passing right shoulders, go back home, do-si-do, square your set. Yes? No other mic around?
Nope.
I agree with everything I've heard you say, and I love to teach the pass-through and the partner trades, but I do that in place of the right and left through, because I just personally have found if I teach the right and left through first before I do the square through, I end up half the time with half of them wanting to do a courtesy turn when they do the right and left through. So I do pass-through and partner trades for the first 3 weeks. Then I teach them the square through. I drill them on the square through, and then about the 6th week, I finally do a right and left through after I know they're doing the square through well. That just happens to work well for me.
You want to add anything to this part? Anybody else have anything to say?
Okay, so Lee, do you use two-couple calling not when you're teaching, but when you're calling a regular dance?
I do the two couples, not at a regular dance. Not at a regular dance. Usually on the weekend, I might use it. Usually, sometimes during the dance as a gimmick type thing. Sometimes on a weekend, we go on certain weekends where the dancing is really hard. And we have some two-couple dancing where I actually read the two-couple stuff at a C3 level, and it is really hard. But for the most part, I do it only for the teaching aspect of it. But at a regular dance, no, I will not use it. I don't do it. I do it for teaching only, not at a regular dance.
Okay, when you're teaching it, do you use it for teaching like extended applications kind of things? Do you find it easier in the two couples?
Explain that to them.
Okay, well, in square dancing, as you know, there's sort of the vanilla standard applications of calls like a right and left through from a normal couple, which is by definition, but square through from normal couples, scoot back from right-hand setups, etc. And some people have found that it is easier to explore some of those extended applications with two couples because you have fewer distractions. For example, if you're in a left-handed wave and you called a scoot back, the people in the middle might try to use their right hand and do that, whereas if you were in left-handed mini waves in a two-couple setup, it would be easier to see what you want with the left-handed scoot back and things like that. Do you ever do that?
No. If I was going to do the left-handed scoop backs, I would not do that just with the two couples. When I do the left-handed scoop backs, by that time, they're in the square situation, and I've done the two couples with the right-handed scoop backs. I might do that with my club when everybody's finished with learning the basic scoop backs right hand, and then throw in the left hand, but that would take a full tip to teach them. I would not do that as in the left-handed scoop back. I haven't done that. No, with a new dancer who's learning the scoop back, a brand new dancer, learning to do it I would do it if I had two boys and two girls. That would be hard enough for them. I would not do it left-handed. I would just concentrate on the right-handed scoop back.
Okay, would you ever do two-couple stuff if, say, you had 6 couples at a dance?
I don't do 6 couples.
Well, I know, but if you only had 6 couples there, would you divide up into 2 couples?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody have any easier questions for me?
I'm just trying to show some other places where you might choose to use 2-couple material.
I'm glad you asked that because I was wondering. I'm hearing a lot of this.
Mike Fenning from Anger. I'm glad you asked that question, basically, not to put him on the spot, but I hear this, and it seems that it's more for the initial basic, introductory so you can get the dancers to go. But I was wondering, could it be implemented later on, even after you've been dancing for years?
Lilith.
I'll tell you when he's done it. When we have a week or a weekend. Come Saturday night on a weekend, everybody's very tired. And if you're standing and you're not moving, you get more tired. And the thing about the two-couple dancing that's such a plus is that everybody's moving all the time. Nobody has a chance to fall asleep and sit down. So Saturday night on a weekend is a good time to do two-couple dances. And when we've had weeks where we dance a whole week, by the third night, everybody's dead in the head. And it's a new thing. It's like a shot in the arm. It is. So he has done that.
Let's go to cycling. Okay? Time to learn how to do a cycling. All right. Who here is a good cycling? Who wants to learn a little bit about cycling? Who thinks they know a lot about cycling? Why are you here?
So you can teach us.
All right, get up here. Right here. How long you calling, Michael?
About 6-7 months.
Oh, you sit down. Okay. All right. Then you're going to get a lot out of this. Okay. Who was up here before? Come up here, Wally. You want to come up here with my wife? Okay. You want to dance with Wally? You want to? I just want two couples. Want to come up? Who he danced with before? Was he your partner? Well, get him. Now, here's your partner. Get over here, Wally. All right. Cycling is the way to go. I don't know anything about modules. I said this before when they were talking to, what was the last session I was in, Mel? What was a legend? I hate that. I felt so old after I finished that, So you're going to hear this again. They heard it, okay? This is the story about somebody. No, you didn't hear this before. Somebody was calling head square through 4. The dancer started to swing through and the boys run. And he started to cough, the caller. The dancers automatically did a Ferris wheel and passed through to an Alaman left without him. Okay? He's a pattern caller. Nothing wrong with that. He was always getting 15 squares at his dance. Nothing wrong with that. So there are pattern callers and there are pure sight callers. I'm a pure sight caller. My son is a pure sight caller. I don't know any patterns. There are some things I do know. I know if the head slide through, you square through 3, you're going to get an Alaman left. I absolutely know that. If you call the heads pair off and you spin chain and exchange the gears and you turn the star 1/4, I don't know where you're going to end up. I have to watch you. If the heads pair off, okay, and you're in an ocean wave and you call a spin chain and exchange the gears and you turn the star just, if you turn it 1/4 or a half, I don't know where you're going to end up. I have to watch them. I have to watch you, okay? If you call spin chain through, okay, and you don't have the ends move, or you have the ends move, I don't know where you're going to end up. I watch you. I don't know. Some people have modules that they remember. I don't know anything about that. If you have the head square through 2 and you do a right and left through, I'm watching you. I know if you pass to the center and pass through, you can do an Alaman left. Follow me. Close your eyes. Head square through 2. Square through 3. Bob, give me a get out with one call. Good. Open your eyes. Next sequence. Close your eyes. Heads right and left through. Square through 2. Give me a get out. Good. Heads, you're in lines of 4 facing. We pass through and wheel and deal. Who's behind couple number 1? You have lines of 4 facing. What formation are you in? Wheel and deal. What formation are you in? Okay. All right. Who's in front of couple number 1? Shut up and listen to me. Lines of 4 pass through. You wheel and deal. Who's in front of couple number 1? Good. You zoom. Who's behind couple number 1? Okay. We do a right and left through in the middle. Who's behind couple number 1? Okay. You square through 3 in the middle. Who is couple number 1 facing? Can you do an Alamein left? Why not? Okay. All right, open your eyes up. When 1 and 3 slide through, you can square through 3. Who are you looking at? You can do an Alamein left, right? Critical. There was an interchange of partners. Critical. Okay, open your eyes. There are certain things that are critical in sight calling. Very critical. When the heads slide through, there was an interchange of girls. Interchange of girls, okay? When the heads slide through and you square through 3, very important. Okay, you know you can do an Alamein left there. I need 2 more couples here. Somebody get up. All right, now, some people are very good at trying to remember partners and corners. Okay? I write down all the time. I write down all the time. Now, I know that he and my wife are there. I know that she has an orange and he has a blue. Okay? I know that they're setups. I know who partners and corners are right here. I would probably write that down even if it was 1 square. And what it does, by writing down 1 square, it frees me to get some good choreography and not have to worry. Now, I remember a caller that was calling, and he had a floor of 6 or 7 squares on the floor. He knew this square here. Okay? This is what he did. He called to this square and everybody else was standing. They did great. Nobody else did anything. If he wrote down a square here, a square there, and a square back there, he was in great shape because he was watching the whole floor. I write down 3 squares. I watch here, watch there, and I watch back there. There was a caller that came to Long Island, challenge caller, forget his name. First time on Long Island, I invited him. Okay? He called to the floor, great choreography, okay? He looked at his notes, never once did he look at the floor. First tip, nobody was dancing. Nobody. Outstanding choreography, very hard. They never danced to him before. Nobody was dancing. After the first tip, he looked up, he says, great job. They labeled him the blind caller. A very good friend of mine. But he wasn't watching anybody on the floor. That's part of calling. I don't care what level you call. Well, your responsibility, whatever the level is, to keep the floor moving. Whether you're calling mainstream, plus, or whatever. That's a technique you have to develop. You got to watch the floor. If you're a good side caller, I have to see. I could tell whether or not you're a good side caller. I could tell if you're a pattern caller, if you're not a pattern caller. And there are pattern callers. I can tell if you swing through and the boys run and your Ferris wheel pass through, I know what the heck is going on at that point. I'm quite sure she would know also. I just know it. Am I finished? 15 minutes to go. Okay? I just know it. So you got to be careful about that. Okay, now these guys are here, okay? I have some choreo, the next section, okay? The next session I have, she has a whole bunch that she's going to hand out to you. That's really terrific that she wrote. But, you know, there are 42 calls that you can do with two couples. I'm not going to read them off. Watch this. Hold this mic. Don't say a word in it. Don't say one thing in it. Okay, I want to see if you guys can do this. I want to see if you guys can do this. These are short sequences, all right? Don't be smart, okay? 1 and 3, roll away with a half sachet. This, I think, is interesting choreography at the mainstream of the plus level, past the ocean. Okay? Do a extend. Linear cycle. Roll at the end. Peel off. I thought you were good. Bend the line. Star through. Zoom. In the middle, go right and left through. Slide through. You're home. Let's try this. Do everybody now. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's get into two couple stuff. That's what I meant to do. Two couples. Okay. Do a right and left through. Everybody's going to get copies of this. Dixie style, do a wave. Okay. Listen to this. I'm going to say swing through twice. What hand does a swing through start with? Right. Swing through. Twice. Swing through again. How long are you guys dancing? Can you do a trade the wave without peeking? All right, trade the wave. What does a left swing through start with? Do a left swing through. What hand does it start with, boys? Do a left swing through again. Everybody explode. That's all I said. Girls cross over. Girls turn back. You're home.
Right, left.
Do a right and left through. Just shut up.
No, we were home before that.
Were?
Yeah.
Oh, this is home from last time.
Everybody.
You were right,
That's
honey.
right there.
Don't be intimidated.
I was right before.
He forgot where home was.
Fan the top. And spread. Explode. Touch a quarter. And the boy roll. And the boys with each other cross over. A little sloppy there. Now you got a box of 4 here, yes? Now there's only one place for the girls to go on the circulate. That's where the boy is. Can you see that or not? Talk to me. Yeah. All right, everybody circulate. Boy roll. You're normal. Boys cross over. Good. That's not too bad. All right. I'm a little screwed up now, so I'm going to side call them out. Okay? Boys run. Slide through. You're home.
Nope. No. Right and left through.
Do it right and left through.
They forgot where home was, too.
All right, couple number 3, roll away. Okay. Everybody pass through and then face in. Now pass through. Just the girls do a partner tag. Only the boys trade and the boys roll. Girls run around the guy. Everybody swing through. And the boys run. Now you got lines facing me. Wheel and deal. And the lead couple wheel around. Guess what? All right, I'm going to give everybody here some of this interesting choreography. If it doesn't work, I'm pretty sure it does. Don't call me. Call her.
I just want to point out that what he did there was some asymmetric choreography, and when you're doing two couple calling, you need to think about that. You can call regular choreography, but when you're doing that, you can never get into one-face lines, and you can never get into tandem couples. So by doing something like having couple number 3 roll away, and then doing other things, you can then set up other formations that you couldn't normally set up with 2 couples. So I think you'll find that a lot of Lee's choreography does that.
Well, I'm through. We're through now?
I've got more to say.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, you guys can sit down. And thank you. Thank you, dancers. Thank you, Lee. Just a few other things about 2-couple choreography. I have a handout here that covers just some general things, thoughts about it, when you might use it, how you might prepare to use it, and things like that. I went to a session this morning that gave me a couple of thoughts about 2-couple choreography. I went to the different but not destructive session, and they were talking about how dancers develop a mental model of calls. One of the things about 2-couple choreography is you may be able to get them out of the mental model that they have and into a different mental model for doing the calls. So, you can, in fact, workshop calls using 2-couple choreography and get them through things that they might not be able to do in a full square because of their conflicting ideas about how the calls work. Also, in that session, if you get the handouts, which you can get on the CD that you got in your package, there are some thoughts about how to develop different but not difficult choreography that might help you in developing 2-couple choreography. And I would use 2-couple choreography not just if I didn't have 4 couples, but I might use it to workshop calls, I teach advanced, and to take calls, 2-couple calls, and be able to extend on those and give dancers some working from different positions in 2-couple things. And I talk about that in the handout. I also want to point out another session that I went to today was the marketing session on the nest. And if you haven't seen some of that stuff, you might be interested in it. And they are using 2-couple choreography extensively to teach calls. You may have situations where you don't have 4 couples, and you might consider using 2-couple choreography to teach a lot of the calls when you don't have that. So, are there any other questions before we close this out? I want to really we've got time, so we've got more time, Lee, if you want to go. But before I turn the mic back over to Lee, I want to point out that we have a book, The Square Dance Man. It was written about Lee and Lilith. It's really a great book. I have a copy of it, and they are available here. You can also online find a DVD of Lee's calling when he was on the Phil Donahue show. And if you were in the Legends session, he talked about that, and it's pretty amazing. So, Lee, anything else you want to talk about with 2-couple stuff? Oh, I just want to say something else. I have a CD back from I don't remember, it was pretty soon after I started calling, and it was put out by Paul Galbert. Do you remember that? And it was called Mini Squares. And this was another one of these efforts to be able to teach square dancing using just 2 couples. And you did that way back then. So there was some interesting stuff there. Do you have anything to say about doing that?
No, that was terrific. Yeah. That was at a challenge level. Very hard dancing. Yeah, very hard dancing. But 2-couple, just to summarize it, the 2-couple dancing is a great way for what we covered here, number 1, to teach your new dancers after you break them in with the 4-couple dancing on some of those basic, easy things around the square, and start to break them in with the slide-throughs and the square-throughs and the pass-throughs and the partner trays or California tray, whatever you want to do. And then also to try to improve your basic sight calling. And when you do your basic sight calling, one of the things I want to mention is, here's how you practice it. If you do a right and left through, what are some of the other ways you can call a right and left through without saying right and left through? Don't give me an answer. I'm not telling you right now. If you want to call a lady's chain, what are some of the different ways to say a lady's chain without calling a lady's chain? If you want to have them lead to the right, what's another way of saying lead to the right without calling a lead to the right?
You're not talking about equivalence, right? You're talking about verbiage to get...
I'm talking about equivalence.
Oh, equivalence you are.
Yeah, equivalence. Okay? So I said to one guy, I said, what's an equivalent of a right and left through? He said, circle half. That's a great answer. So that's one way of challenging yourself. I don't want to call a right and left through. I don't want to call a ladies chain. I don't want to call a lead to the right. So this is what you do. And the way you check yourselves, put your checkers down. I know checkers are, who has checkers anymore? If you don't, it's a mistake. You rely on your computers to do the choreography for yourself, which is a mistake. It's a mistake because you don't learn how to really do choreo by relying on that choreo. It's not fair to your dancers, and it's not fair for you to develop your skills based on the computer program like that. You're never going to get to be a real good cycler that way. And I used to think about different patterns of choreo, come home, check them with my checkers, and see if it really worked. That's the way you can be a good caller. There's no shortcut to that. I would say to myself, well, the heads have done a square through 4. After I do a right and left through and roll away, who am I looking at? I put the checkers down. Before I put them down, I said, well, I should be looking at my corner. If I was looking at my corner with the checkers, I was right on. If I did a touch a quarter, is my head man looking out? Then I was right on. If I did a scoop back, am I still holding my corner? I was right on. That's the way you start to visualize what is happening in that square. If I'm a squared setup and I say the head slide through and I pass through, normally I was calling a right and left through, pass to the center and pass through, do an Alaman left. However, remember that 2-couple stuff we were talking about? Yes or no? Okay. Suppose I have the head slide through and pass through, and I'm looking at couple number 2. Yes or no? Okay. Let's go back a little bit. Suppose I had the head slide through and square through 3. I can do an Alaman left right here. We know that. Okay? All right. Suppose I have the head slide through and pass through, and I'm looking at couple number 2. And if you start to play around with 2-couple dancing right there, and I bring them back to that position, and I start to fool around right there with different calls, then I know if I do a right and left through, pass to the center and pass through, I can do an Alaman left there. That's the trick of the game, to start to play around there, because eventually I'm going to do a right and left through, pass to the center, pass through, do an Alaman left. That's what you do. So, if you know that the heads have done a slide through and you can square through 3 to an Alaman left. Now, if you practice your 2-couple dancing initially, okay, and you know you do all these little calls, then you have the head slide through, and you know that if you did a square through 3, you can do an Alaman left. Then do your head slide through. Forget about the square through 3. You're going to get there in a minute. Pass through, and all those 2-couple calls that you've done because you know where you're eventually going to go, start to do your 2-couple dancing right here, because you know what your eventual get out is going to be. All right, touch a quarter, scoot back, boys run, do a right and left through, slide through. Now do a right and left through, pass to the center, pass through, then do an Alaman left. You see what I'm getting at? And eventually, you know you're going to do a right and left through, pass to the center, and pass through an Alaman left. So you're doing all these calls over here in your mind, or what you're watching, with the eventual get out is a pass to the center, pass through, do an Alaman left. And all these little 2-couple moves you're doing right here, and your get out is going to be the right and left through, pass to the center, pass through, you got it. That's how you deal with it. If you want to extend on it, have the head slide through, square through 3, okay, pass to the center. That couple is in front of you, okay? Zoom, if you know how to zoom, okay? Now you're back into the middle. Pass through, do all those calls over there. Touch a quarter, scoot back, boys run. I can visualize that in my mind. You'll be able to also. If you make an effort to study all that, study those things, put the checkers down, think about it, try to visualize it. That's all part of the mental imagery. And then with that mental imagery, and you know you're on the right track, put your checkers down, then you'll be able to think in the language of square dancing. That's the language of square dancing. Not the patterns. Forget about, I'm not saying you shouldn't know some patterns. I know if the heads pair off and you're in an ocean wave, you circulate twice, you're back to zero. I know that. There are certain things I know that are zeros. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I just know that. I know if you're in lines of 4 and you slide through, I know you can square through to an L. I just know that. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But if you want to play around and move those checkers around, think of certain patterns in your mind, put your checkers down and say, hey, I was able to see that. I know if you have lines of 4 and you pass through and you wheel and deal, I know that couple number 2 is in front of number 1. And if I zoom those guys and number 1 comes in, I know I can't square through 3 because I didn't interchange girls. I just didn't. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, think about it, put your checkers down, and think about interchanging girls. Am I making sense to you or not? It's very basic stuff. I've only been calling 50 some odd years. 57 years, whatever. So you can you can spend a whole night on this stuff. I know that if the heads lead to the right and they veer to the left, I know I'm looking at couple number 2. I just know that. I know that if I slide through and I can do an 8-chain 1, I'm right there. I know I can do an 8-chain 5 or an 8-chain 9. I learned that from Al Brundage. And you know what he used to do? He knew what the numbers were. He would say to the floor, come on, give me a number, give me a number. And then he would wait for the number he would hear. He would hear numbers like 27, 36, 42, and he waited for the number that he could hear. Best showman in the business. Terrific. But there's so much that you could do right now to improve your choreo, and it all comes with the mental imagery. And you can actually see that. Like learning another language. You know, when you learn another language, you know, you transfer it into English. And when you can think in that language without transferring into English, you got it. You learn French? If you want to learn French, you want to learn Spanish, you start to learn these different words or sentences, you transfer it in English. Now, what does this mean in English? Then all of a sudden, you don't have to transfer it. You know how to say it in that language. And that's the business of calling. And that's hard. It's very hard to be a good caller. Very hard. Very hard. And it's very hard to find good callers. Very hard. What do you want, Mrs. Kopman?
I wanted to just say that, I know that there are, I can talk loudly. There are equivalents that I guess all of you know. But in our house, nobody ever did an equivalent. And when our son Stephen found out that Relay the Deucey was an equivalent, right, a 0, he nearly fainted. He thought that was the greatest thing he'd ever heard because we never did zeros. They never did that. And he went somewhere and said they told him it was a 0. He thought that was the best thing he'd ever heard.
Okay, we ran out of your handout, Lee. I did. We ran out of your handout. So do you have it as a doc file, perhaps? No? You did it on the computer, right?
It's on the CD that everybody got, but
this session is being taped. Lee did not get his handout in time, so that's why I am asking if he has it. I'm asking if he has it as a computer file. No. Okay, well, we can try. No, that's. Yeah, this one is mine. We can try scanning it in or doing something to get it online so that those of you who didn't get a copy and other people listening to the recording can get a copy of it. So we'll try to do that. Lee, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Let's give a big hand to Lee Kopman.
How about Kris? Thank you for coming. If you want the book, it's right here. If you want to pay for the book, it's right here.
And if you buy it here, he'll autograph it for you.